When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers. This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Behind the Iron Throne. This is episode 143, and I'm your host, Chris Gray, and I'm joined tonight by a great group of panelists who love the Game of Thrones probably more than they love life itself. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your butts. He is amazing. He's bald. He's a pain in my dago ass. He is the one, the only Jonathan Batman Starklover, the Greek wolf, defender of Canada, and the one true king in the toilet north. What's up, pal?
Hey, Chris, how's everything?
Things are good.
I know. I saw you. You said before you said defender of Canada. And listen, when you lose your bet, you're not going to be saying that.
Yeah,
you're
I'm not worried.
Respect for Canada.
I'm not worried, my friend. I'm not worried. I have a lot of respect for your country. We have a lot of fans in Canada.
No, you.
Yes, I do. I have respect for all races, creeds, genders, and I like the genders. And I'll tell you this much: you will be singing, sir, not I. But I'll still drink with you. Out of respect, I'll still drink with you.
Well, when I win this bet, and I will win this bet, and after you sing "Oh Canada," Canada will take its place among the most powerful country in the world and the greatest country in the world. Boom, mic drop.
Okay, his mic is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce some voice of reason. She is amazing. She is beautiful. She is Andrea, the true Queen of the North, writer of the Sacred Parchments, and the Mistress of Whispers. Yeah.
You're too kind, good sir. I don't know if I'm that partial, though, because I'm pretty hot-blooded there. But Trin's got me beat. I mean, she is blood of the dragon and all that. But hey, everyone, how you doing?
I'm glad to have you on the show. And boy, oh boy, I know you put a lot of work into these show notes and a lot of work into this content. As our media manager, I am going to do my very best to get through all the beginning content to get to your information because it is awesome. The love story between Lyanna and Rhaegar is an amazing part of Game of Thrones, and I'm excited to talk about it. And maybe we can even talk about wow, 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 bow, chicka, bow, wow. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we have any details on that, but that would be exciting because I'd like to know all about Rhaegar if that doesn't offend anybody.
I don't know how many people we've offended already in the beginning of the podcast, about 2 minutes in, but you know what? What are you going to do? Life is short. But that's okay. But you know what's not short?
So we do love Canadians.
We do. All right, next. This person needs no introduction, but she's getting one anyway. She just came back from an amazing trip to...
Never mind, don't answer.
to Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Trin, the video game warrior, blood of the dragon, master producer, and queen of whiskey and the gardens.
Thank you. I had a great time this week, and I'm excited to talk about it and excited to tell everybody. And I really just want to promote this for next year. And I've just got so much in my brain right now because I literally flew in on my dragon this morning to get back to this podcast.
The fourth head of the dragon. It is a real thing. Now, I got to say, looking at all the Facebook posts, I did my very best to keep up with you. You were very, very busy, and I was very surprised just how much stuff you were able to get on Facebook. Now, for anyone that's listening to the podcast and you're not on Facebook and you want to see these awesome interviews and you want to interact with us, the easiest way to do this, we make it really easy for you because we want to promote the community. We want everybody to be a part of this thing, this huge, amazing content and the amazing world of A Song of Ice and Fire. And all you have to do, if you're not on Facebook, you have to get on Facebook. That's where we do most of our stuff right now. The website's not done. Facebook isn't as bad as you may think, and all you have to do is go to facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne, and you can watch all of the interviews that Trin had done. Also, all the posts that we made, all the stuff that Andrea writes. She writes a lot of amazing stuff on the Facebook page, and take some time to read it. It's really, really good stuff. Like the page, share it with all your friends. That's extremely important. And don't forget, it's facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. Now, if you don't want to watch the live show on Facebook because you're just like, screw Facebook, get off my lawn. No, I'm not going to do it. Then you can try us on another place go to livestream.com/TNerdT, because TNerdT is the name of our studio. That's the name of the company. So livestream.com/TNerdT, and you can watch us live there if you do not want to watch us live on Facebook, because you're like, oh, fuck Facebook, I hate it. So that's how you can check us out. So all of the interviews you had done were pretty phenomenal, and I noticed that the further you got into the night, the more fun you were having.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
there's a reason
Go
for
ahead,
that.
John. Go ahead.
It's called whiskey. It's called whiskey, and she drank a lot of it.
I actually
So-
wasn't drinking whiskey, but I
You were
could have
drinking
been.
something.
I could have been.
What were you
because
drinking?
I was drinking Obara.
What
Ooh.
is Obara?
Obara sand?
Yeah, Obara Sand. It's a lemonade
She's
type
spicy.
drink
Was she
That-
spicy?
that they made. No, it was very tasty though.
Ooh.
A little tart.
Did you
and
say it was like a
sweet.
lemonade?
Yeah.
That makes sense, Dorn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, one of the fans was making it. It's in the interview. He explains that he's kind of like an alchemist of sorts. So, anyway, yeah, you can tell from like the first couple interviews in the evening towards the very last interview that I did, which was with KK and Tara, and I was definitely on the party train
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, you were on the party wagon. I like
Yeah.
you interviewed a lot of people. You actually interviewed, how do you say her name? Ashaya from History of Westeros?
Oh, yeah. My first interview.
Yeah.
She was awesome. It was cool because before I started the interview, her and I were talking about podcasting, and I was telling her about my video game podcast, and she does editing, and so we were doing like the super nerdy editing talk, which
Nice.
is totally not interesting to fans, but for us, we were like clicked right away, and
It's
I
interesting to me,
absolutely
Trin.
adore her. Yeah. No,
It's interesting
she's
to me.
she's awesome.
If you ever
Yeah.
get a
And then
chance.
we started talking about our keto beer because I was drinking my diet beer
That's
for our
fun.
keto diets. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was really good. Like everybody there that I met was friendly and fun and just welcoming, and really, it was really nice.
If you
Go
ever
ahead,
get a
John.
chance, hold on, John. If you ever get a chance, someday you're going to go to a podcast convention with me, or to a podcasters meetup. I did one last year. It was a lot of fun. Go ahead, John.
When you were at the Con of Thrones, did you see any great cosplay outfits there? And was like, what was your favorite?
Yes, lots. I have lots of pictures. Holy cow. John, you should have been there because you would have liked it mostly because there were a lot of really hot Sansas.
Yeah.
And I thought of you. I was like, there's a couple of really, really smoking hot girls here, and they're doing Sansa. And I was like, John, he would be in heaven here.
Next year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it next year.
Yeah, you got
I'm gonna
it.
cosplay. What was like the best cosplay you saw there? Like legit best.
Oh, gosh. I'd have to go back and look in the pictures. There were a lot of people there, and there were a lot of people that were cosplaying. There was a really good Baelish,
Wow.
really good Baelish. I was really impressed with the one. There was a couple people that did Baelish. Let's see.
Andre, did you want to jump in?
Well, I wanted to say that I actually have seen a lot of videos with Shira in it, and I actually really enjoy her. She has a really good knowledge of A Song of Ice and Fire history. I mean, she should. But she seems like she's super easy to get along with. I'm really excited that you actually got to interview her.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Now,
Like,
Trin-
her and I. Yeah.
You think are you going to be able to maybe get her to come on the podcast as a guest?
I can work on that. Sure.
Nice.
I don't want to make any promises to
No
anybody, but I
pressure.
have a lot of contacts, so I
No
would
pressure.
love to try to get guests on and sort of, get the community a little more tight knit and work on that so that next year, it won't be me awkwardly showing up and being like, here's a microphone in your face. Can I talk to you
That
about
was funny.
Game of Thrones?
For
Yeah.
never doing that before, you did a phenomenal job.
I've
Yeah.
done that before.
You did better than I did. Well, the first time I ever interviewed people, I'm not going to tell people where they can find it, but it is online. I'm too embarrassed. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. John, you want to
Was that New York Comic Con? I think I remember you
Yes,
going to.
it was New York.
I remember
Comic-Con
that.
2011, I think it was.
I remember. I thought it was later. Like
It might
13,
it might have been 2012.
I
First
remember
time I did it.
hearing.
Yeah.
So I got a question. At Comic Con San Diego, they do competitions. Did they do like a cosplay competition
Yeah.
at this Con of Thrones?
Mhm,
Oh yeah.
they did. Yeah, they had like a parade kind of thing where they would like walk people up to the front, and then they would explain what their costume was, because some people's you couldn't quite tell who they were, and then
Oh, sorry to cut you. Is there, because at Comic Con San Diego, they have like categories. They have like they do different categories. They do.
I missed the judging, unfortunately, and the awards.
Okay.
I was running up to get all my setup, and I came back down with everything, and I had missed it. So
Do they do like because at San Diego Comic Con they have to do like a little performance? Do they do like do they do a scene or something?
they don't have to do a scene for the judging of the costume. They just have to be there in it, and then they got awards. Old Nan. There was an old Nan. I interviewed her. I think she got second place for overall.
Who won? Do you know?
No, I'm so terrible.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
The old
It
man
was
cool.
later in the evening. It was later in the evening on Saturday evening. So we can get all those stats for you guys, I'm sure. I wanted to read really quick what Paula said. Haha, I reckon the guy who said that he was the best GOT predictor was way more wasted than Trin. That guy was hilarious. That's Teflon. And I don't know if he was wasted or not. Or I think everybody was just having a really good time at that point. Yeah, John.
How was like the atmosphere? Like, are people talking? Like, are there like groups of people just start conversations about Game of Thrones and theories and stuff like that? Like, how is it there? Is it like a really good like atmosphere?
Yes. So they had a schedule, and they put it out. Like when you show up, you register, you get a pamphlet, you get your little cool. I left it in my room. Little cool like
Lanyard?
water bottle kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, you got a lanyard. You had to wear your lanyard the whole time. And in the pamphlet, it gives you a schedule, and they had panels going. So there were discussion panels. There were games, like different kinds of board games. They had fun activities out on the lawn a couple different times. They had like this learn how to act like you're fighting kind of thing. I got some video of that. I'll put that together. And then they had a tournament. They had a tourney yesterday, and it was just melee. It was they didn't have like jousting. I don't know how they'd have to get like a fake horse or something, like a stuffed horse.
Hoverboards.
Yeah.
I so want to go next year.
Yeah,
I'm
they
gonna
had
spend a
melee.
year training in sword training so I can
Yes.
just destroy.
Oh, they were
people
rubber.
with
They were rubber
Excalibur,
swords.
man.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were
John
good.
is very familiar with using rubber
Yeah.
swords and weapons.
Rubber sword.
Andrea, you got that.
Rubber equals protection, people. Rubber equals protection.
Well,
Just saying.
my husband I should not open this way because we're talking about rubber swords, but I was going to say my husband's a good woodworker. and he's going to be making some shields. Yeah. So because over the last like year and a half, 2 years, I've been buying him saws and routers and all these things, and he built himself this like giant, huge, awesome woodworking table in the garage, and he's taking it over from all my gardening stuff. And so we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, can you make shields? And he's like, yeah, I can make shields. And then we would paint them, or maybe he could like carve small designs. And
Oh my god, I would love that.
yeah,
I
so,
want to start Shield with the Dire Wolf. I will pay for this.
yeah, we're definitely talking about doing it. And my daughter has she's got a little Etsy shop, so she could give us stencils for the shields so we can paint them and have them like spot on. So yeah, we're totally gonna take shields next year with your rubber sword,
Train
and then
easily.
we can all have our house shields, and yeah, I'm excited, and we're gonna cosplay next
Between
year.
you, Mama Cheryl, your husband, I'm just falling in love with your family. Your family's amazing. Okay. You're like
We're
the
all Game
second.
of Thrones
I'm
fans.
making guys like the second family of Canada after my family. My family's the first family of Canada. You're the second family of Canada. One more question, and I know Andrea wants to talk because I know I'm dominating this, so I apologize. But were they playing Monopoly as one of the board games, Game of Thrones Monopoly? Do you know?
I don't know if they did play that or not. They had the Game of Thrones board game, which is like the second edition or whatever, and that is like a strategic game. It's it's like, oh, there's so many components to it. It took me a while to learn. There's a video online that you can like watch on YouTube to learn how to play. It's like a 25-minute video. I watched it twice before I went down there to play.
I wish I played Monopoly.
And it's a lot more in depth. It's even like more in depth than Risk, and I think Risk is a pretty advanced board game for strategy.
I want to play Game of Monopoly because between family and friends, I've been banned from playing Monopoly through family and friends.
I wonder why.
That game kind of does that to people.
Because I found a way to win. I found there's a loophole to winning that game in Monopoly. People don't realize there's a loophole to winning Monopoly very easily, and you don't have to buy up the major properties. There's a loophole, and the loophole is buy up all the houses. Then they can't buy the red houses. So if you buy up all the small greenhouses, they can't buy red houses, and you automatically win. So all you really need to do is buy like 3 properties and buy all the houses. That's it.
Here's the secret. The real secret is you reach across the table and you smack them with your rubber sword. Bam!
Me and my sister, who by the way is pregnant, guys.
Congratulations.
She's having a girl.
Khaleesi?
No, I have 5 names. We're getting off topic, but we used to get into fights over Monopoly. Like it's been banned, but
okay,
it's crazy.
That's cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So let's go back in here because you interviewed Noelle was a good interview. I thought that was a good one, and of course, one of my favorites was Allison, aka Danger Tits.
Danger Tits, yeah, she was a crack up.
She's like,
these girls are a handful. They were like,
tits. I'm like,
they
what?
were great. Danger Tits was in the contest, but she was a random Dornish girl. Like that was what her costume was, random Dornish girl. But it looked like she would belong in Dorne. It was cute.
I like you interviewed someone dressed as the Hound?
Yeah.
Yes. Mo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did we get the burns?
Yep.
I saw the burns. I'm like, that's nice.
Yeah, it was good. So my husband and I are talking about cosplaying next year, and we were thinking, because a lot of people do, like on Friday they'll do a costume, and then they'll do a different one on Saturday, and then a different one on Sunday, or whenever they get there. So we were thinking for one of our days we were gonna do the Hound and Sansa, because we were trying to think of like power couples.
That's cool.
Maybe. I know they're not a couple, but a lot of people were shipping them. And
a lot of people still ship them.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people still ship them.
Were there like vendors selling like merch, Game of Thrones merchandise?
Yeah, they had some really cool merchandise too.
Official ones or just like made up ones?
No, they were definitely homemade, but they were like very well crafted, very quality.
That's cool.
For
You
sure.
can get some nice stuff that way. You also got to interview Aziz from History of Westeros. He seemed really cool.
Yes. Yeah, they are. They're amazing. They're so
Aziz
cool.
Aziz and Ashira, they're a team. They work really well together. I mean, super good. I'm in envy. I'm in awe of them.
Nice.
They have long podcasts, don't they? Their podcast episodes are like 2+ hours.
Well, ours
they're super long.
Ours used to be that
super long. No, but theirs is like, I remember one time it was like a 3-hour podcast. I'm like, wow, it's so hard to get through a 3-hour podcast.
If you're interested in the content, it goes by quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, you had a lot of good interviews. You mentioned Mo, who is Monstrous Cosplayer D, which took me a little bit of a while to find that for the tagging. Because as you're posting the videos, Trish and I are like, okay. I'm like, Trish, what did that guy say his name was? Okay, look it up over here. I'm looking up this guy. Okay, we got this posted. We got to post. Okay, we got to post it real quick. And then another video is coming up. It's like, hi, Trin here. I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
I wanted to be able, if I would have had lighting, I would have just like turned on the camera and just been like, hey, come over here, sit down, come here. But I couldn't because I had to like go find a cell phone, have somebody
Yeah.
holding the cell phone.
It was okay
so
though.
we
The
could
way
get
that you
lighting.
broke it up made it easier for people to
Yeah.
find, and then
Yeah.
everyone got their individual time on the Facebook page, and
Yeah.
it was. I think it came out very well, and it looked like you were having a really good time.
I just kept hearing while I'm at work, ding, 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 because
Yeah.
all your interviews. And I went home and I'm like, okay, I can't wait to get home. And I just had like I open my phone and I just see like a long list of Behind the Throne is live, Behind the Throne is live. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go home and I watched them all. Like it was you did a really good job.
Nice.
So I can't wait. I'm gonna go next year. I'm definitely down for next year.
Yeah.
I want to go next year. We should all go next year. Everyone.
They're having
Go,
it in a
everyone.
different place next year. They're going to do it in Ohio because they've already grown out of the lodge that they went to this year. The lodge, Mountain Lake Lodge. If anybody's ever seen Dirty Dancing,
Yeah,
it's that lodge.
that's awesome.
What?
Yeah, they had
Don't
like
put baby in the corner.
yeah,
Nobody
no,
puts
exactly.
baby in the corner.
They
I
have
can do the Dirty
pictures
Dancing.
all around.
I took
They have,
lessons.
Nice.
That's a future bet, Chris, right there. That's a future bet right there.
That's going to be a bet, and I will win, dude. I can cut some rug. I can dance. You have no idea.
That's a future bet right there.
I've seen you twerk. I've totally seen you twerk. I mean, I can vouch for
I
that.
got junk in the trunk. I'm good to go.
Actually, Ohio would be closer to me, so that's even
Yeah,
better.
I was
Ohio's
thinking of that
definitely
too.
closer.
Yeah, I actually looked it
Because-
up last night when you did the interview with Tara and KK,
Yeah.
the Queen Regent and the Lord Paramount. I looked it up immediately. I was actually in the bathroom, and it was 7 hours and 53 minutes from my house. And I thought, oh shit, that's a long drive. Maybe I'll just fly. But yeah, it's a long drive. But
Where in Ohio did they say it was?
the Deer Creek Lodge, something like
Okay.
that. I have it written down somewhere. But yeah, it's a little bit. Well, I guess it's about the same distance from where I'm at, But yay, that's awesome.
I got
Yeah.
one more question.
Okay.
What kind of? You said there was panels. What kind of panels were there?
They had other podcasters on.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, let's not mention the other. Like, I just want to know if there was like.
It's yeah. I was happy to be able to interview all of them. So Aziz was on one of them. They did a panel called basically Game of Thrones versus A Song of Ice and Fire. So it was getting the book versus show series up to where the show series is, kind of the overlapping. A lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people were show haters, because there were a lot of people defending the show saying it brings another dimension to the books and it's really great. But there were a lot of people you could tell were very partial to the books, and it was very special to them. So I think
Sorry, go.
I was going to say, I think that there's never been a book in the history of book writing that anybody's ever made a production out of that's been as good as the book. So that's just the way it's been with everything. The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, freaking anything out there. You're never going to make it as good as the books.
It's because people don't realize you can't take a comic or a book and just put it right on the screen. It does not work. If you took Game of Thrones, the book, and you actually put it on the TV, it's not gonna work.
It's 40-hour audiobook to a 2-hour movie or a 1-hour television show.
Like people complain, people talk about how comic book movies. I'm like, comic book. If you took comic book, that's only a 15-minute movie. If you take a comic book and put it into a movie, it's why you're never gonna get a true adaptation of. And the same thing with Game of Thrones. You have to make it. You have to shape books to movies and TV, and I think people don't get that. They want what you see. You can't have every character of Game of Thrones on there. You can't make Dario have blue hair. It's just not gonna work. You just can't do that.
Andre?
Yeah, I think that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show.
Well, you totally can make Dario have blue hair. That's something that you easily can do. But I think that when it comes to show watchers versus book readers, book readers have a hard time. They struggle with the visual storytelling versus the inner dialogue that you actually get to read in the books. And so when you are looking at something like that, you're waiting for specific pieces to pop out because of the inner dialogue. And it's being shown in a completely different manner. And so it's really hard to kind of wrap your head around something like that. And for that reason, I would have to agree with Chris that it would be better for George to release the last 2 books after the series has wrapped up, because this way, book readers aren't getting ahead of themselves, and they're not looking for things that they're expecting. They're actually seeing things that are there, and it's easier for them to interpret what we're being shown. Of course, it sucks because I'm a book reader, and I was actually going through the books again last night. I want them out, you know what I mean? But having this break between the show and the books is actually helping me in being able to see what Dave and Dan have actually been doing the last 5-6 years. You know what I mean? So I think that I can appreciate them both. And they are different tales. They are being told differently. And they are leading us in different directions. But I can see it from both sides. You know, it's really hard as a book reader to go through and have to separate the two.
Yeah, and I almost think that that the HBO season or the HBO series, The Game of Thrones, I almost feel like they're not going to end it. They're going to end it with one of those half-ass endings. And in order to get the real ending, the real meat, and the real juice, you're going to have to read the book to get a real sense of closure.
I disagree.
That's what I think is going to happen.
I disagree. I think we're going to get a really good ending.
I'm pretty sure that we had confirmation, and I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that we had confirmation from George that, or even from the show writers, that George has a specific idea of how he wanted the show to begin, what major points he wanted them to touch base on. And as long as the two stories found their way to finishing the same, they could basically take creative license and do whatever they wanted to with the inside the meat of the show. But as long as the major points weren't missed, like for example, if John's not going to be the prince that was promised, just hypothetically speaking, in the books, then John's not going to be the prince that was promised, hypothetically speaking, in the show. They can't take that and turn it. John's true name is another thing that they have to be really careful about. The fact that, you know, John's parentage was one of those things that George was really adamant about, making sure that Dave and Dan knew prior to going forward and allowing them to create the series in the first place. So these things are things that you can bank aren't going to be changed. But everything in between, they can do whatever the hell they want to, as long as at the end A brings you to Z. Whatever is in the middle is completely different.
So that's really cool that they have these different panels and these different activities. Did you get to participate, Trin, in any of these? Like, what did you get to participate in terms of the panels or in terms of any activities? Did you play kickball, the House of Kickball, or something?
No, I was out there getting media pictures and videos for the tourney and all that kind of stuff. I did play the board game. I was signed up for that.
Cool.
They also had a game. It was an assassin game. I forgot the exact name of it, but you sign up for it, and you are an assassin, or you have to kill. You have they give you like a name of someone else that you have to kill. You have to get like up close to them, and like you'll have, I don't know if they gave them a prop or whatever, but you have to like maybe stick your finger in their rib cage and be like, "You're dead," and then they have to be dead, but they can't make a big show of it because then other people will know that you're the assassin, so they have to like they're out of the game. It was cool. I didn't see anybody actually get killed because they're not supposed to do it. They're supposed to do it on the down low, but I don't know who was the winner of that one. But it seemed like fun. A really cool, and it would go on for like 36 hours. So it wasn't just
like for the whole con.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's cool.
You don't know who's an assassin.
You sold me on this. I'm definitely going. You sold me on this. I want to assassinate Chris.
You can't go.
I'm gonna rig it to assassinate Chris. I'm gonna talk to like KK. And be like, KK, I need to assassinate Chris.
I'm
Assassin's Creed style. I'm gonna Assassin's Creed style this. Okay.
You can't go. You can't go, John, unless you swear fealty to the United States of America.
Yeah, and not to mention, I'm gonna be in a tent. It's air conditioned the whole time, and I'm gonna let you guys go out there and bring people into the tent. We're gonna lure them in with booze. We're going to interview the people, take lots of pictures, and give everyone some
I'll be there then.
You have to have a castle.
You'll be there with me.
And you need a castle tent. You got to find like a way to get a castle tent that looks like a castle.
I'm going to write that down.
Oh,
that is a good
that
idea.
Would be,
and I'm going to put House Lannister on it. I'm going to call it the Castle-y Teen T Castle-y Rock, baby. Beat it.
There you go.
I'm writing that down. I'm going to have Trish buy me a castle tent. Because
I
Trish
do
is
come up with good ideas from
Trish is a
time to time.
Trish is
CFO.
commenting.
Trish is a CFO. She's got to buy it. She's got to give me the go ahead. So
So I do come up with good ideas from time to time.
you do. Trish
And I'm
will love
not
it.
going to swear fealty to the United States, okay? I'm calling my banners and I'm crossing.
Fair enough.
I'm crossing the twins with my banners, okay?
I want to get
It can-
KK and Tara on this podcast.
Oh my God, KK is just as funny in real life as she
awesome.
is on screen. She is hilarious, that woman. They did this thing called improv. What was one of the activities in between panels and stuff where they would go up. You guys have seen Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh yeah.
Like that kind of thing. And they had these pre-written lines, and it was brilliant. They were so funny because they were all like the quotes from Game of Thrones. Like, they would give them a scenario, and they would all be characters, and they pull people from the audience. So they could have pulled any one of us if we were there. Pull you up from the audience, and you got to improv, and you're part of the story. And they'll pull these little strings, and they'll say things like, "For the night is dark and full of terrors," or something like that. Like you're part of. You're improving, but then you have to fit these lines into what you're
That's
improving.
so cool.
And
I love improv.
it was
Sign
it
me
was
up.
so fucking funny. It was
So,
so
like-
fucking funny.
So they would do like a Game of Thrones thing, and they'd throw you like a line of something else.
No,
'Cause
no,
I,
no. It was like, okay, one example was they had 3 people up there. One guy was an innkeeper, and the other 2 were on the King's Road, like, travelers. They were travelers on the King's Road. They didn't make them anybody specific. I think like it was like a whore and somebody else. Anyway, so the
I'll
innkeeper's
be a
talking.
whore.
That's all they give you is just, you guys are traveling on the King's Road. This is who you are. You're a whore. You're an innkeeper. You're a whatever, blacksmith. And then you
totally nailed that.
Yeah, right.
Just the first part.
So they sort of like shove
the
you
NP.
off. They shove you off, and they're like, okay, talk. So then people are trying to, be funny or whatever, and then they pick up this line, and they're like talking, and then because I know nothing, and then the next line, and so you say like 2 or 3 of your own sentences, and then you got to work this other
I
one.
like
and
the
it
thing
was,
you did with your tongue.
That's awesome.
No.
There's
yeah.
there's a really good improv game I played once in drama class where it's not drama class. Actually, I heard about this game. It's where I've seen it live. You take someone's cell phone and you take their text messages, and you take one conversation with someone and you read the entire text message history, and you work into a conversation with someone.
Okay.
That's
cool.
hilarious.
It's very funny. So 2 guys each have their cell phones out, and you just pick you could do it from a crowd. You pick a random person. And you pick one of their text message history, and you start from the top, and then you work in the conversation while using what they say. So if someone says, "Oh, that was what a great sex we had last night," or something like that, you work into. It's really fun. That'd be awesome with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It sounds like a lot of cool things. If you ever want to get over fear of like being in front of people or talking, things that I've done in the past is just call random phone numbers and start up conversations. It's actually pretty freaking amazing what you learn about people. So moving right along.
that sounds really strange. So
It's
they also
actually
had
pretty
a
fun. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised.
On Friday night they had the Manimals, which was a really great concert, and then on Saturday night they had it was kind of like a rave. I don't know.
Were
not
you
really,
a part of
not
the
really a
rave? 'Cause
rave.
The very last video.
I was outside. I was outside
I-
for the whole time.
I removed the video only because it was like 10
Okay.
seconds of just noise and lights. And I wasn't sure what you were trying to show there other than you were up late at night. And I thought, oh, is that Trin in the shadows dancing maybe?
No.
Oh, see, I would have left it.
Not-
If you would have
was
got out
not-
there and shaken some leg, I would have left it on
Nope.
the page.
Mm.
I would have bought you
Absolutely not.
I'll buy you a case of whiskey.
I was outside
Whiskey.
because you could hear, and had a little bit of lighting, and there were benches, and it was comfortable for people, and people were coming in and out, and it was really warm in there. People were coming out saying, "Oh, it's really hot." So
Andrea, do you dance?
Absolutely not. Not if I can help it at all.
Someone's got to dance for me.
I have literally 0 rhythm. However, I do know how to do the wind, which is a Jamaican dance. I still know how to do the butterfly because if you grew up in the 80s, I mean, it's just one of those things that was a staple. You had to.
Or you could do the cherry
but
picker.
my nephew only asks me to do that dance move for him when he wants to
funny.
laugh at me. So I'm probably never going to do it again.
Ooh, we should come up with a dance.
But no, I literally
for
have
Game
no
of Thrones.
rhythm unless I have some drinks in me, in which case I might do some, something.
I would ask my
I
wife.
might join you.
Latina?
I would ask my wife to
Latina?
go
I
and
might-
dance, but she won't do it.
I might
Aren't you
I might
Latina,
just
Andrea?
want some whiskey, huh?
Aren't you
Am I
Latina?
Am I Latina?
Yeah.
What do I look like?
She's
No,
Italian. She said that.
our beautiful Gisela is Latina. She's
Yay,
Dominican
Gisela.
and Puerto Rican.
I always thought you were Latina. My bad.
God no, I'm Sicilian Italian, and apparently I'm South Asian, African, Jewish, and European, and a bunch of other things.
should,
and Greek.
We should
Did you
give
get
her-
that DNA thing?
the
My
swab.
my uncle did after my grandmother passed away, and I found all this stuff, and so now I just need my mom to do one, and then I'll know everything that I have in me.
We should do a quick shout out to Gisela. She does a lot of help in the background, helping Andrea come up with all the media and doing some research. Gisela has been a wonderful part of the team, and so has General Goat. Jimmy McGee has also been a great contributor behind the scenes, and we love our community. They help contribute as well by giving us all kinds of suggestions and whatnot. Now, real quick, I'm going to break into a small commercial here. Because it's important to support the podcast, to keep the studios and everything lit here at the studio. In order to do that, all you have to do is check out some of the links we're going to have we're going to put it in the Facebook, and it's also going to be in the description of this podcast. Now, we're going to have a link in there that'll give you 2 credits for books from Audible. That's right. Audible is a great place to go and listen to great, great books. I love Audible right now. I'm listening to the Game of Thrones, and I got to say, listening to Roy Dotrice do it is absolutely it's a real pleasure. I love listening to it. And you know what? They have so many different kind of books you can listen to. And I'm just going to play a real quick bit here from A Feast for Crows. I'm going to play it right where I was. Here it is.
Donna Crab, when I was a little girl, I believed that all men were as noble as my father. Even the men who had told her what a pretty girl she was, how tall and bright and clever, how graceful when she danced. It was Septa Roel who had lifted the scales from her eyes. They only say those things to win your Lord Father's favour.
Now, how would you like to listen to the rest of that? Well, you can. Just click on the link for our Audible link, and you'll be supporting us here at the studio. You get 2 credits, so you can pick the books that you like. Audiobooks are phenomenal. You're already listening to podcasts. So when you're not listening to Behind the Iron Throne, have a listen to an Audible book. Thank you for supporting us here at the studio. I'll also have a link for any Amazon purchases you want to make. There's no extra charge to you, and it supports us here, keeps the lights on, and that's fantastic. So all the pictures you have taken, Trin, are you going to put them up on the Facebook along with any other video you might have or any kind of other media that you have from the convention, the Ice and Fire convention?
Yeah, I got to go through them. There was a lot, and so I need to I just was clicking away. I got to pull out anything that, if somebody walked in front of me or whatever, that kind of stuff. So I haven't had time to do any of the editing or any real production stuff. Luckily for tonight's show, I had already done our Rhaegar Lyanna stuff. So
Speaking of which,
yes, let's get into that. Oh, one last thing.
Yes,
I
please.
don't normally eat gluten, but I had lemon cakes. I had to.
And
Question. One more
They're
question.
awesome.
hold on really fast before you jump into your question, John. I was just looking for this really fast. Going back to Audibles, there's a new book out that is edited by James Lawler, and it's called Behind the Wall. It's exploring George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. It's forward by R.A. Salvatore, who does a lot of editing for George.
Oh,
So if you
yeah.
want to look at something that is a little bit more GOT related and you haven't read it before, this would be a great book that you could look up either on Audibles or you could go to Amazon and you can look it up there. Just throwing that out there for you.
That's awesome. Is that the same Salvatore that does the Dungeons and Dragon books and some of the Star Wars books?
I would have to look it up. I
Yeah,
honestly don't know the
I
answer
think
to
it
that.
is, but that's awesome. All right, so John, you wanted to do one more question?
So, I'm going to this thing next year. I just don't know what the prizes are for the assassin thing, for the attorney, for the cosplay, because I'm going to win it all. Okay, naturally. I just don't know what the prizes are, because I'm going to win this all. Yeah, you have to tell me how the competition, especially for the attorney, is, because I'm going to start my sword training soon, and I need to get a heads up on this competition so I can win and represent Tiner T, because I'm playing for Tiner T here, people.
Yeah, I don't remember what the prizes were, but we could talk about getting some cool prizes and seeing if we can sponsor some cool prizes as well. So just depends. I know they had a silent auction this year, and one of the pieces was like an armor set. I don't know what kind of quality of armor set it was, or how big it was, or how many pieces or anything like that. But they did have some armor. They had some cool stuff. They had someone selling like the cloaks that you see everybody wearing with like the wolf fur or whatever, like pelts up here.
Perfect
And then
for
they're
you,
like
John.
like velvety. They're really nice. Yeah.
You don't have to sell me anymore. I'm going. Okay.
Yeah,
We're gonna get tier. Everyone's going next year. We're gonna get the castle tent. Chris is gonna be in there dressed as a Lannister, probably Tyrion.
Whiskey and string cheese.
I'm gonna bring down some Canadian. Hopefully I don't get caught by the board. I'm gonna bring down some Canadian whiskey because that's the best. Canadian whiskey.
We can buy that here, John. I know.
You can buy
I don't
Canadian
know if
whiskey
you know
here?
that.
It's cheaper here.
Canadian whiskey.
Yes, probably
Okay, that's
cheaper
awesome.
here.
That's awesome though. So that's done. Okay. I mean, we need to bring goat down, and he has to bring a goat with him. Okay.
Oh, that would be
He needs to bring a
awesome.
goat with him, and we gotta put the goat with the tent. It's gonna be awesome. I'm telling you.
They had a raven there like they had like a
Oh, that's
tent.
awesome.
And they set it all up so like with candles and stuff
That's
so that you
awesome.
can get your picture taken with the raven.
Andrea needs to bring her dog down, and then that's Ghost. Okay, we'll dress the dog up as
Exactly.
Ghost. We'll dress the dog up as Ghost. Okay, I mean like, and then we gotta get Trish down here too, and she could dress up as the Ice Dragon, and stand outside the tent. This is awesome. I'm coming with ideas. This is awesome.
I'm
so
going to
excited.
dress up as, let me see, who am I going to? Jamie Lannister.
Wow, that's
You're gonna have to shave everything.
You have to have
get
a gold
blonde
handle.
wig.
No, because
You
I
have
can
to
do
have a gold
Book.
hand.
In Book, he had a beard. He had scruff and he was bearded.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You have to shave your head then.
I'll wear a bald
Because
cap.
in the book.
I'm wearing a bald cap. I'm not sure. I already have thin
Your
hair.
head, your hair
The
will go
things
back
I
up.
do for Tina T.
See, John could pull off the book, Jamie.
But I'm going at. Everyone knows that I'm going as.
Speaking
Yeah, my
of which,
Three characters. So
I
My
bought-
husband and I were thinking of doing the Jamie Cersei thing because
Ooh,
he
yeah.
is bald and he can grow a scruff.
there you go.
And he would put a gold glove on and I could pull off Cersei.
you need to go as Brienne. Okay.
I'm not that tall. I'm really
You're
short.
not really not that tall. You look big. I mean, no, I'm not saying you look big. I'm just saying you look. I don't know. I just think you're military, so you're CIA. You have that CIA type.
I'm 65 inches. I'm
Jacob.
5'5".
Jacob had a cool idea. I wanted to go as Penny and the goat with the pig, or goat with the pig, and dog puppets.
Oh yeah.
That would have been funny. That would have been awesome.
So I thought we'd ask Chi-Chi, do you think you can pull off a dire wolf?
Yeah, you could do it.
You
a
think
cute-
you could?
Does
you
he
think
wear
you could?
costumes?
You know,
Without-
I mean, she's not getting any bigger, but
You know,
she
I
hates
actually.
clothes.
That's the only dog you have?
That's
I thought you
my
had a
own
different-
one. I have two, but they're both Chihuahuas.
So real quick before we get into the Lyanna Stark stuff, I bought 3 Game of Thrones T-shirts. Okay.
Yeah, good for you.
House Lannister. House
Uh-oh.
Lannister. I'm kidding. I did
course.
House Lannister, Targaryen, and it was a saying with the crow in the front, the 3-eyed raven or something like that.
No Stark.
I don't know.
It just
He had
proves
to
the
know-
fact you don't
oh my-
like the Starks. It just
That's not
proves
true.
my point that you don't like the
Did-
Starks, Chris.
Did the crow shirt say crows before hose?
It might have. My Targaryen shirt looks like that.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
One says
Crows before hose would be
heroes don't have capes; they hold the door or something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
You don't
yeah.
have to be the fastest guy. You just have to outrun the guy that's holding the door. You know.
Oh, too soon. Too soon.
Yeah.
It's not too soon.
As the
It's not
viewership
too
is
soon.
dropping.
He's still
quickly.
in the promos for season 7. It's too soon.
Yeah.
He is in the promos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor guy. All right, let's get into the love story. Andre, would you like to begin our amazing and epic adventure into the love story between Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark? Because I'm convinced it's a love story.
Outside of sorry, cutting off. Outside of Romeo and Juliet, this is the second greatest love story of all time. I
At
just
least the
wanted to
way
say that.
I've written it.
I was just gonna say that.
I'm a little nervous. I don't know where to start. So we had a couple of requests. Trin gave them to me for show ideas, and I automatically picked Rhaegar and Lyanna because it's something that I was prepared for. There is a lot of talk on whether he actually stole her, kidnapped her, raped her, and dishonored her, or whether they were actually in love. And I'm of the variety that believes that it was a love story. So I went through and I wrote this ridiculously long document outlining all of the source material that's actually inside of the books. And a lot of it starts with the Night of the Laughing Tree. So I think that that's where we should start.
You did a phenomenal job on that, by the way. I just can't believe that you were able to do that. And it's still on the Facebook page. Matter of fact, I believe I pinned it to the top of the page so people can go and read it. And I know that it's long, but it's very, very good. And if you read the books, this is nothing compared to that. So take some time and read it. Andre did a phenomenal job, worked her ass off to get it up there. So please do. So did you want to talk about, like, what do we know based on the books about Rhaegar and Lyanna? Is that like...
I think that everyone basically knows that Lyanna and Rhaegar first met at the Tournament of Harrenhal, which was held in the year of 281 AC, which was also known as the Fall Spring. There was a grand tournament going on at Harrenhal. There are a lot of different theories as far as whether it was paid for. Well, it was paid for by Rhaegar, or it was believed to be paid for by Rhaegar. It was under the guise of celebrating one of Gerald Hightower, his niece's birthday, and it was probably the grandest tournament that Westeros has known in, I don't know, since the last maybe 17 or 20 years, depending on how many years have been between the Act 281 and end of Dance of Dragons. However, there was this grand tournament where Rhaegar won, and he named Lyanna the Queen of Love and Beauty. And there was a strange character that showed up known as the Mystery Knight, or the Knight of the Laughing Tree. And we first learn about this in a Storm of Swords. In a Storm of Swords, where Mira and Jojen are actually telling Bran the story. And it's about a little Crannogman, just like Mira and Jojen, who was really bold, and he wasn't satisfied with his life in the Crannogs, and he wanted more. He knew the magics of his people. He could, turn land into water and water into land, and move castles, make them appear and disappear, and all of these things. So he's very talented, and he wanted more. So he set off and he went to the Island of Faces, where apparently nobody ever goes, to spend time with the Greenmen. And he ended up staying there for a whole entire season before the spring arrived, or the fall spring arrived, at which time he knew that he had something that he had to do, that his time had come and he had to leave. And he got in his little skin boat and he went all the way down through the God's Eye and ended up on the shore of that led to Harrenhal, where he noticed that there was this great tournament that was taking place. He got beat up by 3 squires who ended up the knights that they were serving ended up fighting in the tournament, or participating in the tournament. And he was rescued by Lyanna Stark, who beat them off with a tournament sword, declaring them her father's men. Only to be brought back to her tent and introduced to her brothers. And then they attended a feast where Rhaegar played a harp and Lyanna cried. And later on, 2 days after, I believe, the tournament started, the Mystery Knight appeared, and he only appeared after the 3 knights who the squires were sworn to had won a place in the tournament, and then he defeated all of them and asked for the knights to teach their squires honor before he ransomed back their horses and their equipment and things like that. So it was a pretty interesting situation. There's a lot of speculation on whether it was actually Howland Reed who was the Mystery Knight, or whether it was Lyanna Stark, or even Benjen, Brandon, or Ned. But there's a lot of information in this story that makes us believe that it could either be Howland or it's definitely Lyanna. I subscribe to the theory that it's Lyanna and not Howland Reed for a lot of different reasons. At the end of the day, though, King Aerys wasn't happy with the Mystery Knight. He thought that he was an enemy, and he, wanted somebody to unmask him. The next day, the Mystery Knight didn't show back up. So he sent Rhaegar out to go and find this mystery knight, and all he came back with was a shield. The shield had a laughing werewood face on it, and so the mystery knight just remained unknown, basically. Later on, Rhaegar goes on to win the tournament. He bypasses his wife, and he lays a wreath, a crown of winter roses in Lyanna's lap, which kind of started this love affair or this obsession that everyone in Westeros thinks that Rhaegar had over Lyanna. And in 282, Rhaegar had caught up with her 10 leagues from Harrenhal, and that's when he whisked her away, and the last time anybody had ever seen her. So this is kind of where everything starts at.
Interesting.
Really quick,
I love
JNG said, do you think they're loosely based on Edward IV and Elizabeth Grey?
No, because they weren't married. Edward wasn't married. Neither was she was married, but her husband died in the Civil War. I don't think they're based on it.
All right, and Paula said she started reading that document you did, Andrea, and it's awesome. So for anybody listening, you should get online and go read that.
5 gold stars.
5.
So we can pretty much.
I wish I knew who. I wish I knew who Elizabeth Grey was. I would have an opinion about that, but I don't. John would be the one to go back and talk about the history. I'm not quite sure.
I think it was the. I don't want to get off topic here. It's the White Queen from the show. The main.
Okay, got
that's
it.
So. I mean, I love it. I love Lyanna is a badass. I'm sorry, Lyanna's a badass. I hope she's in more flashbacks this season. She's a badass. She's amazing.
So are we thinking that Lyanna was the Knight of the Laughing Tree?
Yeah, that's what I think she is.
Because I think so too. I mean, judging from
What?
her character.
I think she's
Wait,
the
what?
laughing.
Do
Lyanna.
What? I'm sorry. Everything is breaking up. I'm just trying to figure out what you said, Chris. Do we think that what?
Lyanna was the Knight of the Laughing Tree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Couple of things here. If it was Howland Reed, we have a few issues. And a lot of people think that it was him because the Knight of the Laughing Tree was short in stature, where Crannogmen are known to be smaller than Northmen or really anybody in Westeros. They're just really small. So, and then there was the disguise of the voice. But if it was Howland Reed, he's literally the Lord of a Holdfast. He's not like a cousin or like a second son. He's the Lord of Greywater Watch, and he's sworn to Eddard Stark. So a few things could happen here. First of all, there's no way in hell that a squire is going to attack a Lord of a Holdfast and think that it's okay. Second of all, one of those squires
was he? He was.
Oh no,
still
he
a child.
he was the Lord.
He was like a little kid still.
What?
When that happened.
Well, no, he wasn't a little kid. Lyanna was 16. Howland Reed, I believe, was 19. But he was the Lord of Greywater Watch. That's his bannerman. He's not his bannerman's son. He's his bannerman. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, he was Rickard Stark's bannerman. He wasn't his bannerman's son. So, he was the Lord of Greywater Watch. And even if he wasn't quite Lord yet, he was still the Lord. He was still the son of the Lord of Greywater Watch, which means he had high standing. One of the squires was of the Crossing, of the phrase of the Crossing. And they're actually considered a lesser house than like say Rickard's house, because they never had an official title, just that they were a Lord of a Holdfast. So Brandon could have essentially demanded that they answer for the crime of, assaulting a lord of another Holdfast, but he didn't do that. But he wouldn't have any reason to hide his face because A, he was a male and he was allowed to enter the tourney, and B, all he had to do was go and seek out the knights that they were sworn to get to make sure that they were punished correctly, because they shouldn't have been putting their hands on anybody. So it almost is kind of like Howland purposely set out to find these 3 people, like he had previous knowledge, in order to get the end result, which was to pull out the person who was supposed to be the Knight of the Laughing Tree, which ended up being Lyanna. Second of all, he couldn't even defend himself against these squires. How would he be able to defend himself against their lords? I mean, they're the knights that they were sworn to. There's just no way that works out. But Lyanna beat them off with a tourney sword, like it was nothing. They scattered. So we know that Lyanna has skill. We know that she has, that she's brave. We know that she, isn't afraid to stand up for what she thinks is right. Howland is
she also has the element of surprise because she's a female and they do not expect that coming from her. So if she's walking up to those three squires wielding anything, they're going to be like, what is happening right now?
Right.
So that element of surprise.
And she was fierce.
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
Also, this was a jousting tournament. Am I right? Or was it both? It was both.
It was a full tournament. It wasn't just the joust. It was a full tournament.
Because Howland Reed's Cragman aren't good on horseback. So that's why he couldn't be the Laughing Tree, because he's not that great a horseman. And Lyanna is amazing on horseback. So that's another reason why he couldn't be the knight.
Well, it says specifically that Crannogmen are meant for holding oars rather than lances, and they're better at sitting boats than they are horses. So with that being said, there's just no way that Howland could have prevailed in the tournament, in the joust at least, on horseback with a lance in his hand, whereas, Lyanna could have. A few things. Lady Destin tells us that Brandon and her were a pair of centaurs. Jaime Lannister tells us that half of the joust is horsemanship. And Lyanna was comfortable on a horse. It was like an extension of herself, almost like Daenerys with her silver. And we also have from a vision with Bran in a Dance with Dragons in his 3rd chapter that he sees Lyanna and Benjen in the Godswood, and they're fighting with sticks, and Lyanna easily overcomes Benjen and knocks him into the black pool outside. In the Godswood. And so now we have evidence that Lyanna not only was a great sword fighter, but she was also comfortable on horse, which means that she wouldn't necessarily be uncomfortable holding a lance because half of it is horsemanship. And so now you have the makings of what could possibly be the Mystery Knight. Now, the other thing is why would the Mystery Knight need to hide their appearance? And we also get a little hint of that in the Godswood with Lyanna and Benjen, because everything was fine until he got knocked into the pool, and then he started to scream and shout, and Lyanna screams at him and she says, "Shut up, stupid. Old Nan's gonna hear us and she might run and tell father," which means that Lyanna had something that she had to hide. She wasn't allowed to practice with swords. She wasn't allowed to fight, or take up male roles, because Rhaegar wouldn't allow her to do it. She had a reason to do it. To hide. To hide her identity. Only problem is that Ned realized that Arya was like Lyanna, and rather than tell her that she couldn't, he decided to control the environment by getting her a dancing master where she could actually learn without having to hide it. Exactly.
You absolutely read my mind. Just brilliant. Now, I'm confused. Why is Howland Reed here? What is the significance of him in this part of the story between Rhaegar and Lyanna?
Well, I don't think that anybody really knows the reason why Howland is there, but it all comes down to a lot of different. There's a lot of different things there. I think that he spent a season on the Island of Faces, and the Island of Faces is literally an island made up of weirwood trees that have all been carved with faces that were set there to witness the pact between the First Men and the Children of the Forest, which is where they adopted the old gods, and they agreed to never cut down any more weirwoods, and they would keep all of the land that is north of the neck and south of the neck, but all of the weirwoods would go untouched from then on, and they would go beyond the wall, and they would live beyond the wall, basically. So they left green men on the Isle of Faces, and they all took to beyond the wall, and then they left everything else to the men, the First Men. Mm-hmm. And so Howland feels like it's really important that he has to go to the Island of Faces so that he could communicate with the green men who are tied to the old gods, who are tied to the Children of the Forest, who are tied to the Three-Eyed Raven, and yada yada yada. It only stands to reason that just like Jojen, who has green dreams, Howland went to the Island of Faces to be instructed on what he needed to do, what his purpose was, or what he should do, and then only to know that his time had come to depart the Island of Faces, only to land up on Harrenhal. I think that he was there to unite the dragon and the wolf. And that's kind of where it all worked out. Lyanna approached the three squires and identified herself as a true northern woman who are related to the first men, who are part of this pact of ice and fire. I mean, that's what the name of the series is, A Song of Ice and Fire. They needed to be able to join ice and fire together, and that was the whole entire purpose. And at this time, we know that Brynden Rivers had already taken the black, had already came up missing, and basically was manipulating a series of events that have been going on ever since the Second Blackfire Rebellion, for that matter. I mean, it could have been longer than that. You don't really know. It just makes more. Go ahead.
Before we go to John, because I know you had something you wanted to say, John. The artwork that you guys found is really nice. Do you guys know who drew all that?
I don't know. I just actually did a search of the Night of the Laughing Tree and then fan art images, and I just downloaded the pictures and the ones that I thought were the best suited for the telling of the story. And of course we have Howland Reed, and we have Greywater Watch behind him. He's just a little guy with a frog spear.
He's a cute little guy almost. He looks cute. I like his little shield. Now, before John, I'm gonna get to you, I promise you. The reason why we're at Harrenhal for this tourney, it was a front, right? Because Rhaegar was trying to get people of importance to meet to talk about what to do with his father, the Mad King Aerys. Is that why they were all there in the first place?
Yeah, it was kind of like a reconvening of a great council. He was trying to form a great council similar to the one that was formed in the Dance of Dragons. He was trying to reconvene one, which consisted of all the houses in the realm, the high houses in the realm, to possibly get his father declared incapable of ruling, and then seat Rhaegar in his stead.
I see. A vote of no confidence. Sorry, that's Star Wars. Anyway, moving along. John, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. First, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I agree that Arya and Lyanna are very similar. In fact, isn't it in the books that Arya favors Lyanna looks?
Yeah, look-wise.
Someone says that in the books, yeah.
And personality.
Yeah, personality, totally.
In fact, I think it was even stated in A Game of Thrones, after Eddard had been injured in his fight with Jaime Lannister, that Arya had been so upset that they had never seen so much fear or hate in a little girl, and it reminded them of Lyanna.
Second, I don't want to go too much off topic here, but Chris, you talked about what Howland Reed has to do with everything. I think down the line, I don't know about this season because we haven't any information, and I'm trying not to get off topic. Could we see Howland Reed next year in Game of Thrones? Jon, obviously, in the Great Hall in the Winterfell, calls all the lords of the North, we assume. You think Howland Reed's going to be there? And could that be the way of Jon finding out everything through Howland Reed? Because he obviously he pretty much knows everything. Like, he knows his birth. He knows what's about Lyanna Rhaegar. So is that the reason Howland Reed's going to put his part in all this?
Well, I think it's actually a really good. Actually a really good point. He did call all of his bannermen, and when they all came to Winterfell in season 2, I believe, to swear fealty to Robb, or no, season 3 to swear fealty to Robb, it was actually to Bran because Bran was left in charge. He sent Mira and Jojen instead, and with Mira and Jojen not being available to send, he may very well have been in that audience hall, and we just didn't know it. So it's quite possible we might see Howland Reed. I just don't know if they're going to go back and make room for that in the show necessarily based on the time frame and all of that stuff. I think they're going to leave it up to Bran and to Sam and Gilly and everybody else to figure out, honestly.
Because there's still season 7 too. Or season 8. Because we've seen pretty much almost every major house represented in the North. Vermont, Glover, Manderley, Bolton, all of them pretty much, except for the Reeds. We've never seen the Lord of House Reed.
Yeah,
We've seen everyone. We've only seen him in
the.
the flashback. We haven't seen them interact with John. We've seen pretty much every major house throughout this whole season, but that house. So maybe we could see it next season. That could be a secret thing. But I want to get back to what Chris was saying about getting everyone together to try to.
Hold on 1 second. I just wanted to go back really, really fast. Show wise, I don't think that's going to happen. Book wise, absolutely. The reason why I don't think it's going to happen in the show is because technically Mira and Bran didn't show up until after Bran had left Winterfell in the show. So they didn't show up to swear fealty to House Stark when they had declared Robb the king in the North. They didn't do any of that in the show. So, and they also haven't even addressed the night of the tourney of Harrenhal in the show for the most part. So I think that might be a little bit of a reach show wise. I think, like I said, that we're going to get all that information via flashbacks, Bran, Sam, Gilly, Old Town, all of those things. In the book, absolutely. I think that we have to see Howland Reed. But in the show, I think that they've skipped out on all of those for a specific reason. And I think it's because they don't have enough time to do all of those things. I'm done.
But, I mean, I can see we getting like because we didn't expect to see the Glovers or the Manderleys in this last season, and we got them. I mean,
but we saw them in the beginning too.
And no, not really. I mean, the only houses that were like in season 1, it was really just the Karstarks and what's the other house called? I'm blanking here. Umbers. That was it. And then season 2 was the Karstarks really, and then we didn't really the Boltons in season 2 and season 3. So it wasn't only until season 6 that we got the Glovers and the Manderleys. So maybe like an episode. I could still see maybe not this season, but maybe season 8 seeing it because John has to find out somehow, and I don't think John is. I don't
see it happening
because they put Howland Reed in that flashback, and I think when Game of Thrones does stuff like that, I think they're setting a long term story arc, and seeing the flashback of the Tower of Joy, having Howland Reed there, I think is going to play in a big role for Howland Reed telling John the truth. I mean, that's just my opinion on it. But I want to get back before you go. Do you want to go? Because I have something that I want to talk about. Go, Trin.
I agree with Andrea in that he's probably going to show up in the books for sure. Howland Reed is. I don't know if the producers are going to put him into the show. We did get him in the flashback. We got Lyanna in the flashback. We have yet to see Rhaegar in anything in the show wise. Like, they've mentioned these characters and they mentioned them over and over again. We might get a flashback of Rhaegar and Lyanna, but I don't see them doing Howland just because he would have come up already, or they would have led into something that was of Howland, unless, I don't know.
Tournament of Harrenhal.
Yeah, and maybe he'll show up. Maybe he'll show up at the Dragon Pit when everybody gets to the Dragon Pit next season. But I don't see him. I don't see them writing him into the show.
Yeah, and who would you rather see? Would you rather see Rhaegar, or would you rather see? Well, would you rather see Rhaegar, or would you rather see Howland Reed? Because they can't cast everybody in the show.
But if they're saying that each episode this season is going to be a lot longer, like over an hour, and it's going to be a lot. Not a lot of the episodes will be over an hour. I thought we're getting like.
It's not going to be a lot longer. It's just going to be longer. They're going to be extended. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a lot longer. It just means that might get like 10 or so extra minutes, 7 minutes, something like that per episode. It doesn't mean that we're going to get a lot longer, like an hour and a half per episode. We're not getting that.
I think we're going to get Howland Reed either this season or next season. I'm sticking to this. I just think he's gonna play a part in telling John everything. But I want to get back to the tourney of Harrenhal. So
13. 13 total hours.
So I believe that. So Rhaegar he's calling all the lords there. He's trying to start a coup against his father. My question is, he's trying to start a coup with his father, which I believe because he was mad at that point, the Mad King. But he kind of would he really risk all that for Lyanna? Like, I mean, why Oh shoot, I'm trying to say.
Was he
Why would
really?
he try?
Was he really trying to do that,
I
or
believe
did his
so because I
father
think
just
him and
think he was
Tywin.
trying to do
I think
that?
I think he was trying to. I think everyone knew the realm would be better off with Rhaegar being in charge. The Mad King was clearly mad. He was clearly
Yeah.
losing it, and I think Rhaegar doing that tourney to kind of get all the lords on his side. But I mean, he knew he had to risk all that by doing what he did with Lyanna. I mean, because they're. Or did he not know that? I mean, I'm just trying to think here. Or was he trying to get the Starks on his side by saying, "Listen, you know, you maybe his plan was to kind of, I don't know if they have divorce in Westeros, but maybe divorce what's her name? Elion.
Elia.
Is it
He could have
Elia?
just taken an extra wife because
No, he can't.
Targaryens
I
could
mean, he
take
is
multiple
Targaryen, he
wives.
could-
No,
Yeah,
actually, they can't. They actually can't.
Yeah, because they did the Faith of the Seven. They converted. But I don't know if there's divorce in Westeros. It's never been brought up. But maybe he was trying to get the Starks on his side by. But then you're gonna anger the Baratheons. So I'm trying to think of if his motivation was to kind of have a coup against his father. Was him doing it with Leon? I know it's true love. I believe that. But maybe this was kind of a way of either him starting like a war because he knew this would, because you take Lyanna, and I believe it was true love. You're gonna start something because Robert. At this time, everyone knew who Robert was. He was a guy who don't piss him off, and you're gonna piss off the Starks. I'm just saying, did he take Lyanna to start a war against his father?
I don't think so.
No,
but-
I don't think
go
so
ahead.
either.
Uh,
Oh, I was gonna say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I
Because
knew that
risking.
Andrea
I'm
wanted
sorry,
to
it
jump
went
in.
too long.
Go ahead, Trin.
I don't think that his motivation for the tourney at Harrenhal was to overthrow his father. I think that was a paranoid idea of the Mad King. That's what the Mad King was thinking. And that's also what Varys was whispering to the Mad King. I don't know why. Or Pycelle. Which one was it?
I think you're right.
One of those.
Andrea, go ahead.
It was Varys who told Rhaegar, who told Ares that Rhaegar was planning to overthrow him. But I do think that there was truth in that. I don't think that it was going to go out, some crazy, like, crude way. I think that there absolutely had to be a convening of all of the great houses. Otherwise, why would the North even attend a tournament for that matter? I mean, they had no reason to. However, just to kind of go back to what you were saying, John, I don't think that Rhaegar planned at all to come up and meet Lyanna and fulfill the prophecy. No. I don't think that was planned at all. I don't think that he thought to himself, I'm just going to throw everything out the window here and I'm going to pursue this northern girl because she, strikes my fancy. It all really goes back to when Rhaegar was a boy. He had found a scroll in the library and he went downstairs and he approached the Master at Arms who happened to be Willem Derry, and said, it would seem that I need to be a great warrior. So he asked for a sword and he started learning how to train. And nobody knew what the scroll said. Nobody still knows what the scroll said, but we can assume that whatever it was, it prompted him to become a great warrior. And it wasn't until he saw Lyanna, or whoever the mystery knight was, show up with that laughing weirwood face on their shield that he realized that this was the person. This is the reason why he trained to be a warrior. And a lot of things that we learn throughout the series really kind of reinforce this. For example, the weirwood is a sign of the northern house. It wasn't the weirwood that was inside Winterfell, because Winterfell doesn't have a smiling weirwood tree. It has a very grim looking weirwood tree, for that matter. There are some weirwood trees that are older than even than the tree in Winterfell, and actually that tree has been there since before Winterfell was even built. Like the weirwood at Raventree Hall, which is the house of Bloodraven. It's his family's ancestral home. That tree was poisoned, and it doesn't have any leaves yet. Ravens still flock to its branches even today. I mean, the most crazy amount of ravens that are seen anywhere. Hold on one second, John. The weirwood in question, the one that's painted on Lyanna's tree, is actually the weirwood that's at the Black Gate. And of course, no, it's not necessarily smiling. Bran says that it's so old it looks like it has wrinkles on it. In fact, his direct quote was, that's Avenge Me Part 1. Hold on one second, John.
Okay.
Bran says, next words. I'm going to get it. I'm almost there.
Can I say something while you're looking?
Go for it.
I agree with you. I think it was true love. I don't think he ever meant to. I think it's like when you look at all of Westeros.
Sorry.
When I look at all of Westeros, I think there's been like when you talk about true love, it's Rhaegar and Lyanna.
But why?
And Tywin because it was organic. It was organic.
How is it organic? Like that's the part that I'm confused about.
They weren't meant to be together, and they fell in love, and it's true love.
Like in
it's
one
like
moment.
Romeo and Juliet were never meant to be together.
No, it
That's
happened
why I
over
compared them.
time. It happened over
Also,
time.
the second true love is, believe it or not, and you're gonna go crazy with this. Tywin and Joanna was true love, because he never remarried. He never took another
He
wife.
didn't smile
he
after her.
His duty as a lord is to take another wife of a highborn wife and to produce more. He didn't do that. That's true love at its finest. And those are the only examples I think of in Westeros of really true love. I mean, Ned and Catelyn fell in love, but they weren't at the beginning. So there's that.
I agree with everything you just said, but what I don't understand, and this
Tyrion and Tysha.
Oh yeah. Well,
true.
Tyrion thought. From Tyrion's perspective, yeah, that's true too. I love the thing you did with your tongue, Jon Snow. But what I don't understand is how did they fall in love? Like they saw each other at Harrenhal, and it was like, the flowers and the love.
No,
and
he was like singing a song or a poet or something like that, and it brought her to tears. And then later, he gave her the roses. So there was obviously like.
But
some
why?
looks and some glances.
What prompted
There must
that?
have had some chemistry at some point.
They saw each other, and it was true. It's true love. Like Romeo and Juliet was like that.
Everything that George has ever written, like this is the softest like love thing that I can think of. Like out of all the shit that this man has written, this is how they fall in love. Like, hey, I played a song. Oh, that's so wonderful. Here's a flower for you, baby. Bing, bang, boom. They love each other.
And then, they part ways after the tournament. And I think was he riding back up through River Run, and Lyanna was there, and then they met up and then took off.
I do buy into what you said, Andrea, about getting all the lords together, because why would the North come? The North does not believe in tourneys. They would never have done this. I'm sticking by that they all got together to try to do a coup against the Mad King, because the North does not do tourneys. And Rickon, I think, was up there too. Am I right? Was Rickon there? I mean, was Rickon up there? Brandon was up there. Ned. I mean, Ned was already there because he was at Ned wasn't at the tourney?
No. Rickard wasn't there. Rickard wasn't there. No, Rickard sent his sons, Brandon, in his place because Brandon was said to be the heir of Winterfell. So Brandon, he attended for in his father's place, and Ned and Lyanna and Benjen all went and they went with Brandon, but no, Rickard wasn't there.
Ned was already there anyways, right? Because Ned was already at the Eyrie with Robert, so I can definitely buy that.
Yeah, Robert Ned was there.
No, Ned and Robert were at the Eyrie.
Because I remember
they were both in the Eyrie.
Because Ned had.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. Ned was in the Eyrie, but Robert was already the Storm Lord. He was already the Lord of Storm's End. He had to have been at Storm's End before he appeared, because his father, Stefan, and his mother had been killed.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, they had died in a shipwreck on their way to go and find Rhaegar a wife. Rhaegar had already been married to Elia. Therefore, Robert was already the Storm Lord. He was already the Lord of Storm's End.
Wasn't he at the Eyrie, though, with Ned? Because I remember the Mad King sent word to Jon Arryn that he wanted the heads of Ned and Robert.
So much later. That was later.
But I'm just saying they were both at the. I think Robert was still at the Eyrie when they went to the tourney, right?
Robert was the Lord of Storm's End. He was already taking residence at Storm's End. He wouldn't at that point be Jon Arryn's ward anymore. But he was close enough to them So yes, he sent word to John Aaron to bring him the heads of his wards or his foster sons, basically.
But
Really fast
at that
though.
point,
Go ahead.
okay. At the
No, no.
point where the tourney happens, and during all that time, Lyanna listens to Rhaegar's song or poem or whatever, and then she tells Ned later. I think it's in a flashback. She tells Ned later, like, well, I went to look for Robert, and he was doing a drinking contest. He was like in some sort of drinking contest, and then on one hand she's got that, and then on the other hand she's got Rhaegar, who's like singing her a song that brings her to tears. So I think I thought that's when he was like how Robert was at the tourney as well.
Robert was at the tourney. It says there were seven.
Robert was.
Yeah, seven. There was a seven-sided melee in which Robert Baratheon unhorsed several of the other competitors. The event was mentioned several times in the books. Any Rhaegar's behavior falling to honor his wife and instead honoring Robert's betrothed Lyanna is what started the whole brouhaha that ultimately became Robert's rebellion. That was just something I read from a quote thing. But yeah, he was there.
Yeah, so basically what we're all saying is the same thing. Lyanna didn't want to marry Robert. She felt like he was incapable of being faithful to her, that he already had a child on a woman in the Vale, a bastard on a woman in the Vale. Ned promised her that she could change Robert, that he would become a different man once he was married, that he would settle down, and that men had their needs basically, but Robert would be different for her. And she was unsure about it. And so she asked Ned to petition to Rickard to absolve the betrothal, and which Ned had guilt over because after he slapped, and this was actually after he slapped Cersei, after Ned had been attacked, that he thought back on it, and how he would change. And obviously Robert had never changed because he had so many bastards by so many different whores and women, random women, but he just couldn't stay faithful to his wife for whatever reason. Now, Lyanna, on the other hand, she was very adamant about the fact that he wasn't a faithful person, so therefore she just couldn't see herself being with him. Yet she fell in love with Rhaegar, who was married to Princess Elia, which is quite the conundrum. So you would think that possibly the reason why she was asking for the betrothal to Robert to be canceled was because she was already in love with Robert. Now, her being so fierce, you can't actually see her crying at a song unless it actually touched her, which brings us all the way back to Bale the Bard and that Lady Stark that fell in love with him because of the songs that he sung her father. So there's a lot of similarities here.
So that's how they fell in love?
Well, that was one of the reasons why she was attracted to him. With her pouring that wine over Benjen's head, it proves that Benjen picked up on something that her other brothers didn't pick up on. Benjen and Lyanna had always been closer. Lyanna was acting out of character. She was obviously attracted to the Dragon Prince. Going back to the Night of the Laughing Tree and the smiling werewood face, though, I found it. It says, Bran says, the Black Gate, as Sam had called it, wasn't black at all. It was as white as it was a white werewood, and there was a face on it. The glow came from the wood like milk and moonlight, so faint that it scarcely seemed to touch anything beyond the door itself, not even Sam standing right before it. The face was old and pale, wrinkled and shrunken. It looked dead. Its mouth was closed. Its eyes and cheeks were sunken in. Its brow was withered. Its chin was sagging, as if a man could live. If a man could live for 1,000 years and never die, but just grow older, his face might come to look like that. The door opened its eyes, and they were white too and blind. Who are you? The door asked. The well whispered, Who? I am the sword in the darkness, Samwell Tarly said. I'm the watcher on the walls. I'm the fire that burns against the cold. I'm the light that brings the dawn, the horn that wakes the sleepers. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. Then pass, the door said. Its lips opened, wide and wider still, until nothing at all remained but a great gaping mouth and a ring of wrinkles. So if you can picture a great gaping mouth and wrinkles all around, it looks like smile lines. And there you have a laughing werewood tree. So this was a sign to whoever was meant to see it that this was this person who was representing this laughing werewood was a person who was tied not only to the north but to the true north, a link between what's south of the wall to what's north of the wall. And Lyanna was a link to this. She is a true woman of the north, and the first men beyond the wall, the wildlings, they are a matriarchal society. The women are revered more than the men are. So it's considered lucky to steal a maid or a spear wife during while the Red Messenger is passing through the Moonmaid constellation, which is when Jon stole Ygritte. And if you can successfully steal a wildling woman, then you're considered worthy of her. But if you can't, then she'll kill you, basically. So Rhaegar learned to be a warrior so that he could win over a woman in the north, a queen of the north, a true winter woman, and basically unite the dragon to the wolf, or ice to fire. And this had all been part of the prophecy that Rhaegar had won, which is why he needed to be a great warrior. So after the Night of the Laughing Tree came up missing, Rhaegar goes beast mode, and he wins Lyanna in the fashion of the First Men. He places the true crown of winter, which is what Garth the Green Hand and the First King used as the true crown of winter roses on Lyanna's lap rather than on his wife Elia. Said was the day that all the smiles died. But so basically you have a few wildling customs that are taking place here. Rhaegar, who wasn't the greatest warrior in the Seven Kingdoms, went beast mode and beat 2 Knights of the Kingsguard, who actually were some of the best fighters in the realm. Even Jaime Lannister says that he stood no chance against Sir Barristan Selmy. That he could be trained in his shadow, basically, was honor enough for him. I mean, Jaime, who is supposed to be one of the best swords, is honestly admitting that he couldn't have defeated Sir Barristan Selmy. And Arthur Dayne, who is the greatest sword in all of Westeros, lost to Rhaegar as well. And I think it goes without saying that neither of them basically willingly gave him, the tournament. He had to have actually put forth a true show of strength, which is what happened when he defeated those last 2 Kingsguard the last day of the tournament. Really interesting stuff is going on here. So you have Rhaegar, who won Lyanna in the way of the First Men through a true show of strength, and then after the beginning of the new year, Rhaegar had taken to the King's Road with six companions, a total of seven people. Sorry, I can't count today. A total of 7 people, where he came upon Lyanna 10 leagues from Harrenhal. 10 leagues from Harrenhal is actually the Island of Faces, which is exactly where Howland Reed had came from in the first place. They weren't in the Riverlands. I mean, they were kind of in the Riverlands, but they were still on the Trident. They weren't near River Run. They weren't near the Twins. They were on the Trident. And so it makes more sense that if he came upon her 10 leagues from Harrenhal, that they were actually at or near the Island of Faces, where he stole her again in the ways of the First Men. So he stole a woman during the time where the Red Messenger is passing through the Moonmaid again, which is considered lucky. They went to the Island of Faces, which is also tinfoil, where they were wed in the ways of the First Men, and they consummated their marriage before the old gods. Which is on the Island of Faces. I mean, there's a lot of northern influence going on with this, which is what makes me believe that's why Rhaegar was prompted to learn to be a warrior, because he had to be strong in order to be a worthy consort of what would be the very first true Queen of Winter in what would be, 300 years?
So Rhaegar gets this, he reads something in a book, prophecy. He gets the idea to train. He trains. All kinds of shenanigans happen between then and now. Becomes a very formidable warrior. Also has the ability. He's very charismatic. People love him. He's great playing music, and he's very romantic. He sees Lyanna, or however that works out. They fall in love, which I think is a little bit weak sauce, but that's okay. It's part of the sauce. They get together. He doesn't steal her away in terms of the rape that we were led to believe. But they actually go together. They both, agree to go together. There was no rape involved. They actually fell in love. They had the marriage, and tinfoil. I guess they made Flippity Flop and the Isle of Faces, which would be kind of interesting, considering that the Three-Eyed Raven would be watching them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we get the Song of Ice and Fire. This is where I believe the Song of Ice and Fire. This is where it comes from these two. Fire being represented by Rhaegar, and of course ice being represented by Lyanna. So this is very, very interesting. Trin, do you agree that there was no rape involved, that they were in love, they went together, and it was consensual?
Yes, consensual. Yes, love. There's a lot of little details that get thrown in and mixed all around. It's sort of like sprinkled throughout all of the different perspectives of everybody else that and even in the show they do it when Sansa's down in the crypts with Littlefinger
Oh, yes.
and she's like, oh, and then he stole her and kidnapped her and raped her, and then you get that little look from Littlefinger, like he knows because he was around during that time. I don't remember if he was specifically at the Heron. Was he at Harrenhal? Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was with all those people at that time, so he was involved in the politics at a lower level than he is right now. But he knew, and he's because of everything that he knows, he's not the master of whispers, but he's got all the secrets the same as Varys does. So I believe there are two people who know. I think Varys knows, and I think Littlefinger knows that about Lyanna and Rhaegar. I don't know if they know. I think Varys knows about Jon Snow as well. I don't know. I don't think that. Actually, I'm positive Littlefinger doesn't know about Jon Snow, because that would be way too big of a secret to keep in his pocket with Sansa right there. But that's a whole nother tangent. I do think they were consensual. I think they were in love, and it was mutual on both sides because they both have showed it in the little details through different stories.
John, you agree?
I agree with everything you said. I don't think it was rape. I think it was true love. I don't buy if Varys knows about Jon Snow, and I don't buy that Peter, because I think if they knew, they would use Jon as a pawn or something like that. I'm finding it hard to believe that they know, because I think Varys, because he knows about Daenerys, he's trying to get Daenerys on, but if he knew who Jon was, that's a pawn that I know Varys would play. So I find it hard to believe Varys knows who Jon really is. So was Peter.
I think
But
that
I think
Varys,
they know. I think they know though that Lyanna and Rhaegar was in love, but I don't think they know that Jon is Rhaegar and Lyanna's kid, because I think one of them would use that for their own gain rather than not. So like Varys, especially Varys, I think would be using that to help, like he would have somehow got Jon to meet Daenerys or something like that. He'd have that as a pawn in his back pocket, and maybe we'll see it down the line.
Yeah, I think he's going to. So I believe this is my own little perspective. I think he's a Blackfire. I think Varys is a Blackfire, and I think that he knows about Jon, and it would be in Jon's best interest for no one to know about Jon until it's just the right time. So I think Varys is keeping the same secret Ned is keeping or was keeping, because he knew how important it would be to keep that secret, because otherwise it could put Jon into a lot of danger if people really know. And with Daenerys, she's bringing over a giant army. So she's not going to have any trouble taking the throne. Whereas Jon, if they were like, oh, you're the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, then Jon would he doesn't have any. He barely made it through the Battle of the Bastards on his own.
But is that Varys' idea to get Jon and meet, or is that Tyrion? Because Tyrion's hand of the queen, and Tyrion knows Jon Snow. Tyrion knows a lot about Paul. Let's be honest.
I think it's going to be Davos' idea, because they're trying to get help up north.
Well, I mean, the North is busy with. I think it's going to be Tyrion, because I think they're going to come aboard. They're going to come to Dragonstone, and I think it's going to get our word about. It's going to reach where everything's going to happen in episode 1. Where I think this is what I'm picturing. Episode 1, Cersei's going to be in her small council chambers or whatever, and she's going to be told about this army coming, and then meanwhile, I think Jon's going to find all that out. She's going to find out that Cersei will find out that they beat the Boltons, that Jon, Sansa, Peter, they're in the North. They got the North back. She's gonna be pissed off. She's also gonna find out an army's coming. It's gonna get out. I think it's more Tyrion. I'm still buying the fact that Varys doesn't know, because I think somehow he's gonna use that to his advantage and to try to make because he wants a good leaders to rule the realm, and who better to rule than let's be honest, a Stark would make a perfect ruler in the terms of how to rule. they'd be perfect at doing that because they're
Disagree.
great lords. No,
Andrea,
really?
yeah, Andrea, go ahead, and we're going to get ready to wrap it up because we're going to have to make a part 2. Go ahead, Andrea.
No worries. Trin, your Varys is a Blackfire. First of all, in the Game of Thrones, Arya number 3, Illyrio alludes to the fact that Varys has danced the dance before, assuming that Varys knows his way around the Targaryen and the Westerosi throne. Then Varys says specifically, and we've talked about this before, Lord Stark is the one who troubles my sleep. He has the bastard, he has the book, and soon enough he'll have the truth. Earlier, he was talking about how he found the bastard, talking about Gendry, and how Gendry looks just like Robert. There's a difference between finding the bastard and having actual ownership of the bastard, which leads us to believe that Varys not only knows that Robert has his bastards, but that Ned has a bastard as well. But Ned's bastard isn't actually Ned's bastard. He has the bastard. It would be more beneficial for Varys to make sure that Jon stays out of the picture so he can continue his plans with fake Aegon, who's actually a Blackfire, versus putting Jon, who is the rightful and legal heir of Rhaegar, on the throne, because they don't want a Targaryen to rule. They want a Blackfire to rule, which is why they married Daenerys to the Dothraki, because once he dies, she's stuck in Vaes Dothrak. And Viserys is the only one that they cared about because they needed his army, or the people that he would gather to his banner as a legitimate Targaryen, to bring in that army so that Aegon, when he took the throne, would have the support of the Targaryen people. It would have been easier. Then, once Viserys died and Daenerys actually lived and didn't go to Vaes Dothrak, they needed Daenerys in order to solidify Aegon's claim. So it makes more sense that Varys know that Jon actually exists, being that he actually did know where Rhaegar was because he sent Sir Gerald Hightower to go and retrieve him, that he would know that there was a baby, but just try not to bring him up. Go ahead, Trin.
I wanted to read, Lilith made a comment, and she said, yeah, Jon wasn't raised to be a king. And I think the point she's trying to make is Daenerys has been raised to be royalty, and Jon was raised to be a bastard. So in his leadership or taking the throne, it would just be a lot harder on him. And then Paula said, Varys knows Jon and Dany need to meet. I think Varys would have thought it would be easier to get Dany to Westeros because she wants to take back the Iron Throne. It would be easier than to get Jon to travel to meet Dany.
Okay. We're going to wrap the show up here because there's so much more stuff we need to talk about with Lyanna in the love story. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a part 2. I'm going to have my Crackpot team here start working on my show notes so that we can have something legitimately that looks good in the description. Real quick, I want to mention that if you love listening to the podcast, if you've enjoyed listening to us tonight, please take a moment to support us. And how can you do it? It's extremely simple to do. I have links here in the show notes for the podcast, and we're going to have, we already have links in the comments of the live stream on the Facebook Live. We have different options. You can do Amazon Prime. And let me tell you, Amazon Prime is a great thing to have. If you don't have it already, sign up for it. You can actually have a lawnmower, a full-sized fucking lawnmower, sent to your house with Prime shipping. It will cost you nothing with the shipping. A lawnmower that weighs like 125 pounds, shipped to your house, and guess what? They charge you no extra money for that because you're a Prime member. You pay your yearly fee. How do I know this? Well, Trish just did this actually today, and you can do it too. So in the description, you have a Prime membership. You can sign up. It's a 30-day trial to give it a try, see if you like it. That'll help us get a kickback as well. Or if you want to buy anything from Amazon, we have just a plain Jane Amazon link. If you click on it, and your cookies are enabled, within the next 24 hours, everything you buy, a very small percentage will come to the studio so we can keep the damn lights on. I'll tell you, these lights getting very expensive, and we'd love to make this podcast for you. This is how cool it is. I went to Amazon. I bought a House Targaryen shirt. I bought a awesome House Lannister shirt. It's got the lion on it. It looks sexy. It looks awesome. And I bought a cool shirt that has the three-eyed raven on the front that says something about I see you, I fuck you, I'm the three-eyed raven. I don't know what it says. I don't remember. But it looked really cool. So I got 3 awesome Game of Thrones shirts, and I had to pay $0 for shipping. $0. It was cheaper to buy them from Amazon than from the official HBO store. So go ahead and use that link. And of course, you know, I've talked about Audible many, many times on different podcasts. And of course, I did earlier on this show. Audible is a fantastic way to learn, to make yourself better, to listen to some really awesome fantasy. I just got the Harry Potter books on Audible, so I can't wait to go back and listen to that. They sound really, well, I listened to some of it. It sounds really, really awesome on Audible. And being able to drive and have it read to you is nicer when you're cutting the grass with that lawnmower you bought from Amazon. See how I made the connection? Bam! That's all you have to do. And you have a great time listening to that. And, of course, just listen to our podcast first. So thank you so much for supporting us here at the studio. And before we wrap it up, we're just going to go around the table one more time. John, was there anything you wanted to say before we end part 1 of the Rhaegar and Lyanna love story?
Nothing. Everything was said. I mean, I agree with most of what you said. I still find it hard to believe that Varys knows who Jon is, but I could be swayed. Other than that, hopefully we'll get to part 2. Who knows? Maybe a trailer, maybe a full trailer comes out this week. We don't know. It's gonna be May. Maybe we get a full trailer and that might get set back. We'll just see that. Also, get back to your sponsor, Amazon. Okay, can I say something about Amazon Prime too?
Sure, please do.
So not only do you get free shipping, you get Amazon Prime Video with your Amazon Prime, and they get some great shows there. American Gods is premiering May 1st. There's Man in the High Castle. There's some really good shows. So not only do you get free shipping, which is amazing. I order stuff all the time for Amazon Prime. Free shipping, 2-day free shipping, amazing. You also get Amazon Prime Video. So I recommend Amazon Prime. I'm an Amazon Prime user, so boom, there he goes. Other than that, I love being on this podcast. Sorry we didn't get to a lot of your comments on Facebook, guys. We usually read a lot of comments we didn't get this week, but in the post show we will get to your comments. The community's the best. Andrea, you did really great work on this. I really like this. Leon, I'm a softie at heart. Okay, I love stories. Okay, and this is a great love story. It's amazing. I just want to say, and so outside of that, and I mean, Trin, your work at the Con of Thrones is amazing. I can't wait to next year. I'm going to that tournament and I'm going to win the tournament. So
if you can't hear the smile on this man's face, then you haven't been paying attention.
I'm so happy. This is such a great episode.
Yeah. Okay, Trin. Any final thoughts before we end the part 1 of our love story?
Other than it is definitely a love story, and I think it's probably hard for George R.R. Martin fans to really grasp because he doesn't do a lot of love stories. He does a lot of death stories. So I think he's throwing us a curveball with this. Like John was saying, it's organic. It's an organic, natural love, and it might have been predestined. We don't know that until George tells us. So, but I think so far it's been amazing. And next week, or in the follow-up to this one, we're gonna go through a few other. Well, Andrea's got it all in line, so we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about to follow this up. Hopefully, we get some kind of trailer. I believe the last couple of years they've been giving us trailers like two months, maybe 2 months out. Yeah,
further than that.
We're still, I think, at the 10-week mark. So we've got a lot of time still.
Well, also, Congratulations on doing a phenomenal job at the convention, Ice and Fire convention. Of course, we're going to send you to. We'll try to send you to another one, and of course, I think you and Andrea are
the end of June.
Nashville. Yeah,
yes.
at the end of June.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to let the listeners know. Andrea and I will be at the Con of Thrones in Nashville, so you can Google it and look it up. Get your tickets. I feel like they're going to start selling out quicker and quicker. They've already sold out of their big package, the Valyrian package. You might be able to find some bootleg versions online of people who bought extras or whatever. The big deal is going to be they've got big names. They've got Melisandre's going. They've got Ramsay Bolton. The actors that play these people are going. So they keep adding people to the list. It's going to be pretty big.
That's awesome. And also, let everyone know about your podcast that you do for the EverQuest 2 game.
Okay, it's EQ2LFG. I play EverQuest 2 online, and that's my podcast. I'm a little bit behind because I was gone this weekend, and I've got college classes starting tomorrow. So production, we're cranking them out as fast as we can. And if you like online video games, that's what we do. So give it a listen. It's EQ2LFG.
It's a Mamorphica, people. You gotta check it out. Join the Mamorphicas.
I don't even listen to it. I just download it to support it because I'm not even into that game. But I download it. I mean, I wouldn't know what. I don't play the game, so it's literally would go over my head. But I download it so you can get numbers. So
I thought you were the knower of all things, true and amazing.
Well, at least leave her a review.
Oh, I'll already review when I'm
all
able to write
5 stars.
one. It's weird in Canada to write reviews. It's very. Sometimes I can't write a review. I don't know why. It's tough. Canadian shit.
Oh, Canada. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, you'll be singing that in a few weeks.
No, I'm not going to be. Anyway, Andrea, thank you so much. Our master of the media and the content. Very great job. I can't wait to continue this conversation. And if you want to do any shout outs or any final thoughts before the end of the show, please do.
Yeah, I do want to say, again, this is a huge topic to kind of tackle. So you're only getting bits and pieces of it, even with this show. I highly recommend, if you're interested and you want to hear the theory in its entirety, that you read the file. You can find it right here on Behind the Iron Throne. It's pinned to the top, or you can go to our discussions page, Behind the Iron Throne, theories, speculations, and more, and you can get the full file. I have been doing some edits. But it's a really exciting thing for me to talk about with you guys. There's so much more that's tied to this whole entire love story, and that hopefully we can get into that moving forward. But it was a pleasure to kind of go over it with you guys, and I'm always around. Ask as many questions as you can think of. I will be at the Con of Thrones with Trin, and we're going to be wearing I don't know if we're cosplaying or not. I'm not planning on it, but we will be wearing our big Behind the Iron Throne t-shirts and representing and making sure that you guys have full coverage of everything. Shout out to all the groups that let us share our podcast with them. ASOF, Discussions and Theories, Skagos HQ, Game of Thrones Extreme, Thronies for Life, Master of Whispers. There's so many to kind of go over. Gisela, you are an inspiration to me. You keep me going. I couldn't do any of this without you guys. And, of course, to the three of you, I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. I mean, we have a great team. And, yeah, I'm just really excited to be here and participate every single week. And what more could a girl ask for?
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for downloading this podcast each and every single week or checking out the live video stream at facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. Don't forget, we do a couple of different things here at Total Nerd Takeover Studios. We have the Apple Time podcast if you need any kind of help with Apple products, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches, AirPods, or MacBooks, or iMac. We help with all those different things. Anything you want to do right there. Trish and I do that podcast. We're back on a bi-weekly schedule at the moment because I'm doing a lot of stuff with moving my house. Also, you can check out all my YouTube video reviews, the tnerdT.tv channel, or appletime.tv. And, of course, if you want to get a real good laugh and you just want to have some fun and you kind of kick back, you can check out my son's channel, brianstoybox.tv. All right, everyone, thank you so much for your continued support. We love you here at BTIT. We'll see you next time. Remember, we are taking over the world one nerd at a time. T-Nerd T, baby. We'll see ya.